Detectives gather round. We've all been following the Michael Gaine case, a farmer in Kerry gone without a trace in March of 2025, only to be found weeks later, concealed inside his own slurry tank. At first, we thought we had the story figured out. One man, one weapon, a single brutal act. But now, the guards have revealed something that shakes the whole foundation of this investigation. Michael wasn't dismembered with just one blade. Forensic experts found two distinct types of cut marks on his remains. Two different tools were used. And that detail, as small as it might sound, changes everything. Because now we have to ask, was it one killer who switched weapons mid crime? Or was it two killers, each bringing their own blade into the nightmare? This isn't just about the how anymore. It's about the who and maybe the how many. So, detectives, that's our mission tonight. We're going to break down this two blades revelation, test both theories, and see which one makes the most sense. Along the way, we'll compare it to other Irish and UK cases where multiple weapons or attackers were suspected. Because if Kerry has one killer walking free, that's terrifying. But if there are two, that's a whole new level of fear. Before we can judge the two blades theory, we need to remind ourselves what actually happened step by step. March 20th, 2025, Michael Gaine, a 56-year-old farmer from Kerry, goes into Kenmare. He buys phone credit. That's the last confirmed sighting of him alive. No distress, no warnings, just an ordinary errand. By that evening, Michael is gone. His family finds his truck, his wallet, even his phone still at the farm. No signs of forced entry, no struggle. It's as if he stepped outside and never came back. In the following days, searches stretch across Kerry fields, woodlands, even the slurry tank. But nothing turns up. The community starts whispering, was this an accident or something darker? Then, on April 29th, the guards reclassify the case as a murder investigation. That was the moment it became clear Michael didn't walk off on his own. Finally, on May 16th, nearly 2 months later, the farm gave up its secret. A slurry spreader jammed, and inside, investigators found human remains. They belonged to Michael. At first, rumors of a chainsaw spread like wildfire. It made for shocking headlines, but the guards were skeptical. And now we know why. The forensic results showed two different sets of cut marks, not one blade, but two. That's where the real mystery begins. Detectives, here's where we stop with the timeline and start with the hard evidence. The case file in front of us has a few key points highlighted in red. Michael Gaine vanished on March 20th after being seen in Kenmare. His phone, wallet, and truck were untouched at the farm. Nearly 2 months later, his remains were discovered in the slurry tank, a tank that had already been searched once. Early rumors of a chainsaw spread fast, but the guards dismissed that theory. No physical evidence ever supported it. And then came the revelation that rewrote the whole investigation. Forensic experts confirmed two different sets of cut marks, two blades. That's the pivot point, the detail that forces us to think like detectives. Because two blades can only mean two things. One killer switched weapons, or two killers worked together. And detectives, that's the fork in the road we've got to walk down tonight. Detectives, picture this: one person alone on the farm carrying out a crime they've planned, or maybe one that spiraled out of control. They start with a blade, but somewhere along the way, it's not enough. Maybe the first weapon broke, maybe it dulled, maybe it was never suited to the task in the first place. That moment forces the killer to improvise. They grab another tool, they adapt, and they finish what they started. Now, think about what that tells us. If this was one person, they had time, nobody interrupted them. They had access to multiple tools on the farm, and they had the determination to keep going even when the first blade failed. That doesn't sound like panic. That sounds like someone who was methodical, someone who was willing to problem solve in the middle of one of the darkest acts imaginable. And here's the part that sticks out: the slurry tank. If it was one person, their end game wasn't just the killing, it was concealment, hiding Michael inside waste where they thought no one would ever find him. That suggests planning, or at least quick, cold improvisation. Other cases have shown this pattern. In some UK investigations, killers switched weapons not because they wanted to, but because they had to. One blade wasn't enough. One strike didn't work. The job had to be finished. So, detectives, ask yourself this. If this was one killer who had that kind of time, access, and determination on Michael Gaine's farm, detectives, let's flip the file. What if it wasn't one person switching weapons, but two people working side by side? Two blades, two sets of hands, two killers. Think about what that would mean. This wasn't an act of desperation, it would be an act of collaboration, a plan shared between more than one mind that changes the entire psychology of the crime. Because if two people were involved, we're no longer looking at a lone figure in the shadows, we're looking at a conspiracy. Both would need access to the farm. Both would need a reason to target Michael. Both would need the kind of coldness it takes to not only kill, but conceal. And here's the unsettling part: two killers can cover for each other. One makes noise, the other keeps watch. One slips up, the other fixes it. That could explain how Michael vanished without a trace, no signs of struggle, no alarm raised. History isn't short of cases like this. In Ireland, whispers around Sophie Toscan du Plantier's murder in the 1990s often circled around whether more than one person could have been present. In the UK, the Babes in the Wood case raised the same questions. Was there more than one set of hands involved in what happened to those children? And in Kerry, the theory of two blades now forces locals to ask, is it possible two killers walked their fields, hid among their neighbors, and worked together to erase Michael Gaine? Detectives, the idea of one killer is terrifying enough, but the thought of two, that leaves us staring at a conspiracy hiding in plain sight. Detectives, let's step into the lab for a moment. How do experts know there were two blades? It's not guesswork, it's science. When forensic pathologists examine remains, they study every cut mark under high magnification. Think of it like fingerprints, each blade leaves a unique signature. The angle, the depth, the width, even the way the edges of the bone splinter. No two tools mark a body in exactly the same way. In Michael Gaine's case, those signatures didn't match. One set of cuts suggested a tool with a broader, heavier edge. Another set showed a thinner, sharper blade. Two different instruments, two distinct traces. And here's the important part: if it were a chainsaw, as the early rumors suggested, the marks would be unmistakable. Chainsaws leave jagged, irregular patterns, loud, messy, impossible to miss. But investigators didn't find those, which is why the Texas Chainsaw Massacre idea was tossed aside by the guards almost immediately. Instead, what they found looked controlled, deliberate, almost careful. That's not panic, that's precision. So, detectives, ask yourself, if one killer was switching blades, why? Was it necessity, a broken tool, a dull edge? Or if two killers were involved, does this mean they each brought their own weapon to the farm? The answers aren't just buried in motive, they're etched into the forensic evidence itself. Detectives, let's think like profilers for a moment. A switch in weapons or two people using separate blades isn't just a technical choice, it's a window into the killer's psychology. If it was one killer switching tools, that suggests persistence, determination. They weren't going to stop no matter the obstacles. Imagine the mindset. The first blade isn't working, and instead of abandoning the act, they adapt. Cold, calculating, and in control. That's not the picture of someone panicking. That's the picture of someone who knows exactly what they want to achieve. Now, if it was two killers, the psychology shifts entirely. Two people committing the same crime means shared trust, a pact. It's one thing for one person to cross the line into brutality, it's another for two to walk into it together. That takes planning. That takes confidence that neither will betray the other. And it creates the possibility of silence, of loyalty, even years later. Either way, the psychology is chilling. One blade after another. Determination of a single mind. Two blades at once. Collaboration, conspiracy, shared intent. So, detectives, here's the question we have to pin to the board. Which is more frightening? A lone killer methodically adapting his tools in the middle of a crime, or two people standing side by side carrying out the act together? Detectives evidence lives on paper, but fear lives in people. And in Kerry, this two blades revelation has rattled the community to its core. For months, neighbors told themselves it had to be one person, one killer hiding in the shadows, one mind behind the madness. That's terrifying enough. But now, the thought that two people may have worked together changes everything. Because how do you protect yourself from a conspiracy? If it was two killers, they could still be blending into everyday life. At the pub, at the shop, walking down the same roads Michael once walked. And that thought keeps parents pulling their children closer, keeps doors locked earlier, keeps conversations hushed in the back corners of cafes. The farm itself has become a wound in the land. People pass by the Gaine property with unease, as if the soil itself betrayed them. And adding salt to that wound, the outsiders, tourists turning a murder scene into a backdrop for selfies, smiling where Michael's family grieves. Locals call it murder tourism. Politicians are even demanding jail time for it. The outrage isn't just about respect, it's about the deeper fear that justice is moving too slowly, that the guards still don't have a suspect in custody, and that until answers come, Kerry is living with the knowledge that someone, maybe even two people, killed Michael Gaine and got away with it. Detectives, this isn't just a mystery on paper. It's a living, breathing wound in a community that once believed it was safe. Detectives, we've weighed both theories. But I'll be honest with you, if I had to put my marker down, I lean toward the two killers theory. And here's why. First, the two blades. Forensic experts confirmed different types of cut marks on Michael's remains, broad, heavy cuts alongside thinner, sharper ones. That's not just a broken blade. That's two distinct signatures. And switching tools mid-crime, it happens, but it's rare. It's risky. If you're one person, every second you stop to fetch another blade is a chance to be caught. But if there are two of you, the risk drops. One keeps watch, the other works. That makes sense. Second, the slurry tank concealment. Michael's body was hidden in a place that had already been searched. That suggests not only planning, but confidence. If it were one killer improvising, maybe they'd panic, dump the body in the woods, hope for the best. But here, the concealment was sophisticated. The remains were disturbed, mixed, and hidden so well they weren't discovered until machinery forced them out. That feels less like desperation, more like teamwork. Third, the silence of the crime. Remember, Michael wasn't just murdered, he vanished. No signs of struggle. No neighbors reported hearing anything. A lone killer might slip up, make noise, leave a trace. Two killers working in sync, they can control the scene better. One handles the act, the other controls the environment. And finally, the psychology. Sharing a crime of this scale takes a bond, trust, loyalty, or a pact. That kind of shared intent often shows up in conspiracies, in cases where more than one person has a stake in the outcome. To me, that explains why Michael disappeared so cleanly and why it took so long for the truth to surface. So, yes, detectives, my opinion leans toward two killers, two blades, two sets of hands, two people who knew what they were doing and who might still be out there. But what about you? Do you see one determined individual switching tools in the middle of the crime? Or do you, like me, see two people working side by side in Kerry's fields, carrying out one of the darkest acts Ireland has seen in decades? The case is still open, and until charges are laid, we are the detectives keeping the truth alive. Detectives, we've laid it all out: the timeline, the evidence, the blades, the theories. We've stood at the fork in the road, one killer or two, and we've tested the weight of each path. Here's what we know for sure: Michael Gaine didn't vanish by accident. He wasn't just murdered, he was concealed, erased, hidden in a way meant to silence him forever. The forensic truth is clear: there were two blades, and that fact leaves us staring at two possibilities. If it was one killer, then we're looking for someone determined, methodical, and ruthless, a person who adapted mid crime and had the cold nerve to finish what they started. If it was two killers, then Kerry is facing something far darker: a conspiracy. Two people walking side by side, bound by silence, hiding in plain sight. The guards have already interviewed over 130 people, reviewed hours of CCTV and dashcam, and re examined every inch of the Gain farm. Yet no one has been charged, which means the answers and the killers, whether one or two, are still out there. And that leaves us with this chilling truth: Kerry is waiting for justice. Michael's family is waiting for answers. And until this case is cracked wide open, every locked door, every shadow at night will feel heavier. So, detectives, our work isn't finished. Drop your theories below. Keep asking the questions. Because in cases like this, the silence is exactly what the killers want. And together, we won't let that silence win.